Tuesday night is open mic night at Walter's Sports Bar. Got talent? Bring it to the stage. Come show off your skills or just sit back and enjoy the show while indulging in delicious food and ice-cold drinks. Open mic begins at 7 p.m., located just across the street from the ballpark.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life's sleep.
Now the batter is Tyler Black, the designated hitter. Irvin delivers, swing, and a fly ball left field toward the line. Lile on the run. Can he get there? No. He'll field it on a hop. One run will score. Into third on a dive is Renifo, and into second with a second double of the night is Tyler Black. 2 runs home in the inning, and it's now the Brewers 4, the Nationals nothing.
So here's a left-left matchup. Ashby against Daylen Lile. 1 on, 1 out. Here it comes. Swinging a looping fly ball, shallow left. Racing in is Perkins. He dives. Kick it. Ball deflects by him toward the left field line. Abrams racing for third. He'll stop there. And then at second with a pop fly bloop double is Daylen Lile. That's the Nationals' first hit. He didn't hit it hard, but it eluded the diving Perkins. And the Nationals finally have a hit here in the bottom of the 7th inning.
We know we can hit. We know we're capable of putting up some runs. I think we're trying everything we could against Misiorowski. He's just really good.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Nationals Park, where Friday night was fireworks night, but there were no fireworks when it came to the Nationals offense. The Nats did not get no hit, but they flirted with being no hit. A 6-1 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers at Nationals Park in Game 1 of a 3-game series and Game 1 of a 6-game homestand. The Nats totaled just 2 hits. They got work by Brewers starting pitcher Jacob Misiorowski. He tossed 5 1/3 scoreless and hitless innings with 8 strikeouts. Did leave the game, though, due to a right hamstring cramp, but the Nats ended up not doing much offensively, even with the Miz out of the game. The Nats in this regular season now 15-18, 3-11 at home versus 12-7 on the road, as the incredible home road disparity now is even larger. Coming up later in the show, an update on the Nats AA affiliate, the Harrisburg Senators, a courtesy of the voice of the Senators, Frankie Vernouski. Frankie Vernouski, not to be confused with Jacob Misiorowski. Disappointing outing for Nats starting pitcher Jake Irvin. He and 3 Nats relievers combined to throw a whopping 182 pitches over 9 innings, including our friend reliever Andre Granillo, allowing 2 runs, both of which were unearned in 1 inning. A laborious top of the 8th in which he threw 40 pitches. I think Granillo is still out there. But Mark, the Nats had the great 3-game sweep at the Brewers April 10th through the 12th, but this game on Friday evening was all Brewers.
Well, you know who they didn't see in that series in Milwaukee was Jacob Misiorowski. And if they had, it might have been a very different outcome. That was my first time seeing him in person. It was really something to watch. It's just every single pitch he throws, your eyes immediately go to the scoreboard because you want to see what the velocity was. 101, 102, 103 he topped out at. Even more impressive to me than the fastball, he threw a slider that registered 98 miles an hour. I've never seen anything close to that before. And a changeup that registered 94 miles an hour. What are you supposed to do with that? As Blake Butera said after the game, I don't know how anybody ever gets a hit off of him.
Yeah, he's really tough. Not really sure how anybody hits him.
You hate to just chalk it up to facing an incredibly good pitcher, but that's what it was in this case. They looked helpless up there. You felt bad for him that he had to leave the game the way he did, although it sounds like it's nothing too serious with the hamstring. You know, you're glad the Nats didn't get no hit in the end, but man, they had nothing going. And when you watch that kid pitch the way he did, when he can command that kind of stuff, it is hard to imagine how anybody ever gets a hit off him.
What's interesting, too, is so you have the velocities at which he topped out, and then you have the average velocities, right? So that's like more of a representative sample of what he did. If you go by the StatCast data, The average four-seam fastball velocity for this game, 100.7 miles per hour. The average slider velocity for this game, 96.9 miles per hour. The average changeup velocity for this game, 94.2 miles per hour. And that's what really got me. Like, it's one thing to top out at a sky-high number. That's impressive enough. When you are averaging 97 miles per hour on your slider, 94 miles per hour on your changeup, that is something. I mean, that is really special arm talent right there.
The final pitch he threw, the one that he got hurt on, you knew something was wrong because it was only 98.9. That was his slowest fastball of the game. I mean, that's how dramatic that is, that if you were to see 98.9, your reaction is, uh-oh, what's wrong with him? The thing about it, it's not just the velocity either. Everybody was talking about afterwards his extension that he gets. He's so tall and lanky and gets so far down the mound that makes the numbers play up even more, because it's just the ball's getting on you even quicker from that close distance. It really is a remarkable thing. I know he's dealt with a few injuries, mostly to the lower half, thankfully, as opposed to the upper half. You hope that doesn't sideline him too long, or that it's not anything that comes back to haunt him in the long run, because he has the ability to be something really special. Blake Butera actually saw him in the minor leagues. The Brewers, when they would face the Rays, said this is exactly who he's always been. Daylen Lile faced him, he thinks, the last time in low A ball, and said he was just as good back then. So this didn't come out of nowhere.
Last time I faced Misiorowski was probably in low A, and he's still the same pitcher till this day.
This kid has got one of the most electric arms we've ever seen in the sport. And you hope for his sake, and just for baseball's sake, that he's able to stay healthy and can continue to go out there and do this, because one of these days he probably will throw a no-hitter with that kind of arsenal.
So the Nats for the game, 1 run, 2 hits, which were a double and a single, 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, 13 strikeouts. The Nats did work 5 walks, but there just was so little happening offensively for the Nats in this game. They got no hit for 6 into third innings. The first hit for the Nats, a 1-out first pitch, opposite field double by Daylen Lile to left field in a 1-run 7th for the Nats. And Jacob Misiorowski for the game, 5 1/3 shutout and hitless innings, 8 strikeouts, leaves the game due to what we eventually learned was a right hamstring cramp. I don't know that anyone who was watching that game thought that it was some sort of leg ailment when he left the game. It was concerning the way he left the game. He threw a pitch near 99 miles per hour, if memory serves, and he leaves the game. And of course, your mind immediately goes to some sort of elbow ailment, forearm ailment. But luckily here, it looks like, right hamstring cramp. That's a best case scenario, all things considered, if you're Milwaukee.
Yeah, exactly. I think when you were watching it live, you didn't know what was going on. If you went back and saw the replay of it, I almost thought it was his back, because he kind of like stretched his back out a little bit as if to say, that there was something going on there. And then he kind of subtly motioned to the dugout as if to say, hey, come on out here and check on me. The trainer comes out and Misiorowski immediately turns around and walks back like towards the mound away from him. The fact that he never even tried to throw a warm-up pitch, all that you're thinking, oh, this could be something real bad. But obviously in their conversation, he said to him that it was his leg, that it was, as they described it, a cramp. I'm sure they'll get more testing on that to make sure it is his right leg, so his push-off leg. When you're generating that much velocity and extension, I'm sure there are things with your body that can go wrong. Everybody, including the Nationals, was grateful that it wasn't anything with his arm, as much as they were happy to see him come out of the game, because it meant maybe they finally have a chance. They still took no pleasure in an opposing player getting hurt and having to depart like that. They'd feel that way about anybody, but especially this kid, because of how special he is and how good he looked in this game.
Well, and that's the thing. Misiorowski leaves the game, and you do say to yourself from a Nats perspective, like, okay, this guy's out of the game. Now maybe this offense can get going. And we certainly have seen this offense this season do a lot of good things 7th inning and later in games, but it never really materialized here. A little bit of action in that 7th inning, like I said, with the Lile double, and the Nats do score a run. But beyond that, it just was like a sleepy kind of offensive outing here for the Nats. Nobody did much of anything.
Yeah, and Aaron Ashby, who came in for him, was throwing 99 himself from the left side. We've seen him as an opener, I think, in that last series in Milwaukee. He came in, he got through the 6th inning, he struck out James Wood, got Luis Garcia, comes back out for the 7th, a strikeout. As you said, he did give up the double. That was a bloop double to Lile. It was a few inches away from being caught by Blake Perkins in shallow left field. So who knows what happens if he makes that catch. So I think Ashby was just as big a part of this, the collective effort. I felt like, okay, they're probably not going to get no hit. But in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking, you get to the seventh inning, like this may be one of those combined no-hitters before it's all said and done. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. But it's not like to that point there were a lot of close calls. They, I suppose, hit a couple of balls hard, but there wasn't like one or two moments that you said, oh, that should have been a hit, or the Brewers made a spectacular play to keep the no-hitter alive. It was complete domination up until that point, until the Lile double.
Yeah, and so we continue on with this journey with this Nats offense from a standpoint of going really well, then a 5-game stretch during which the Nats totaled 14 runs. Then the Nats had the 14-run outburst in the 14-2 win at the Mets this past Wednesday, 5-4 win at the Mets on Thursday afternoon. Now back to the offense looking pretty bad here with what happened on Friday evening. So, this is, a long-term ordeal here of what exactly is the offense, but a little bit of an up and down nature here lately where we have seen it be really good, but we also lately have seen some outings in which the offense doesn't do much.
Right, and that was kind of the pattern last year. It felt like they were either really good or had nothing going, probably more to the extremes than we've seen so far this year. As we've noted, when James Wood and C.J. Abrams have a good game, the Nats generally have a big offensive night. When those two guys don't do it, it's kind of hard to make up for that lack of production, and obviously they didn't do much in this game. Let's see what happens Saturday. I think you do chalk this one up to who they were facing, and you hope that's not a sign of anything else to come over the rest of the weekend. If they struggle again on Saturday, then you start worrying what's going on, and especially this whole thing of like, why are they just playing so horribly at home? Like, it doesn't add up. There's no good reason for that to be the case, but it's undeniable. 3-11 at home, 12-7 on the road. I don't have an explanation. I'm not sure they really have an explanation for it themselves.
No, and Blake Butera talked about it a bit during his pregame press conference with you guys, and I don't want to say that Butera sounded annoyed, but he has been asked about this now multiple times. He doesn't have an answer because I think, as we have discussed, I don't know that there is an answer. It's a weird, quirky, fluky thing, probably going to change at some point. Tim Shovers is messaging us. Butera was annoyed. Okay, he did sound a little annoyed and how he answered that.
These guys, they're gonna play hard and try to win every single game, whether the rest of the games are here or in Chicago or in New York or wherever they might be. I promise you, we're not trying to lose at home and win on the road. We're just going to try to play our best baseball regardless of where we are.
Because it is one of these deals where it's like, I don't know why, and I feel like that's what he wants to say. Guys, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to any of us. It just is the way that it is right now. But yeah, that kind of discrepancy. I mean, the Nats are one of the best road teams in the majors with the record that the Nats have on the road, 12-7. And the Nats are one of the worst teams in the majors at home. And it just is completely bizarre that this is the case. And I don't know which one is more bizarre. With the expectations what they were for the Nats coming into this season, 3-10 at home maybe doesn't shock you. The 12-7 on the road, I think, is what really overwhelms you. Like, wow, that is so good for this team to be that good on the road. And then you say to yourself, all right, if you didn't know the home record, you say, well, this team must be overachieving. The home record must at least be like 500. And no, it's 3-10.
Yeah, and they've faced like good teams on the road. They played the Cubs, the Pirates. I know the Phillies are not playing well right now, and the Mets are not right now, but you would think those are still kind of intimidating teams. The Brewers, obviously, sweeping them there. It doesn't add up. The thing about the home games, I think what stands out more than anything, I think the defense has been much worse at home. I think the base running has been worse at home. Obviously, the pitching has been worse, especially the bullpen. I don't know there's an explanation. And yeah, I think Butera, I don't think he is bothered by the people asking the question. I think it's bothered by the, I don't have an answer for it, nature of this whole thing. If he did, they would certainly be trying to figure it out. I think it's the kind of thing that should even out over time. I don't think they're going to go through this whole season as one of the best road teams in baseball and one of the worst home teams in baseball. That should balance out over time. But for now, it is a real head scratcher. And then the thing you worry about is, does it get in their heads at any point? And now for some reason they think, man, we can't win at home. Why is that? And now they start pressing or doing things that they wouldn't otherwise do. I don't know, but I would love to see that turn around here soon, because that's not a narrative you want to keep going for much longer.
No, and Nats fans have been through a lot. Ticket-paying Nats fans especially deserve to be rewarded for paying hard-earned money for tickets. You want to reward those fans with victories, not losses, and a lot of losses so far. You know, in the NFL, teams for home games stay in hotels. I bet most people know that, but maybe you don't. For a home game, an NFL team still stays in a hotel together. You don't get that in MLB. Maybe the Nats need to start doing that, staying in a hotel together before each home game. And maybe somehow that'll bring the team together and we'll get some home wins here.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend, the big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel. But it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Irvin delivers. Breaking ball. Low gets away from Millis. He didn't realize it at first. And in from third to score is Mitchell. And the Brewers lead 1-0.
So the Nats starting pitcher for this 6-1 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers at Nationals Park on Friday evening was Jake Irvin. 4 runs, 3 earned in 5 innings. So he gave up 6 hits, which were 3 doubles and 3 singles. He issued 4 walks, and the walks were very much the biggest negative for him in this outing. He did record 5 strikeouts, so again, a good number of strikeouts from Irvin, but the pitch count got high, 98 pitches over the 5 innings, 60 strikes, 38 balls. Irvin in the top of the first allowed a run. It was unearned. He gave up a leadoff double by Garrett Mitchell off the right field warning track, and then Mitchell scored from third base on a one-out pass ball by catcher Drew Millis. And this was interesting. Millis initially didn't recognize that the ball had gotten by him. He whiffed on catching the ball, didn't realize that he had whiffed on catching the ball. And especially if you watch the game on TV, you can hear Irvin yelling at Millis. I think Irvin said something like "Millie back" to alert Millis to the fact that the ball was behind Millis. So that was an interesting scenario there. And then Irvin in the top of the third allowed a run on a leadoff walk of David Hamilton, a win-out walk of Bryce Terang, and a win-out RBI single by William Contreras to center field. And Irvin in the top of the fifth allowed 2 runs, win-out single by Bryce Terang through the right side of the infield on an 0-2 pitch. That was disappointing. Win-out single by Contreras to left field. One-out walk of Jake Bauers. One-out RBI fielder's choice grounder by Luis Rengifo. And a 2-out first pitch opposite field RBI double by Tyler Black to left field for a 4-0 Brewers lead. What'd you think of Jake Irvin in this game?
It wasn't at his best, obviously, but I don't think he was at his worst either. There wasn't a ton of loud contact. The walks certainly hurt him. The defense did not help him in a lot of ways. And really, more than anything, I think he fell behind the count a little too often, and that's where the damage came. When he got ahead in the count, he seemed to do fine. He had the opportunity. He gets to the 5th inning. He's given up 2 runs. The pitch count's getting up there, and you know, okay, they're probably just going to ask for 1 more out of him. And he had a chance to get through that 5th inning, keeping it as a 2-0 game. And you walk away from that and you say, okay, that was good enough. You kept us in the game. And that 5th inning did not go well at all. Now, some of it's, again, weak contact, but there's another walk in there, a fielder's choice, a little looping double. All of a sudden, a 2-0 game is a 4-0 game. And I think that changed the whole idea of what that start was for him. 4 runs in 5 innings is not good. 2 runs in 5 innings you can live with and say that's all right. 4 and 5 looked a little uglier, I think. And I know he would have been perfect on this day because Misiorowski was so good. But if you can just keep that at 2-0, you've done your job. You're giving your team a chance. He had been much, much better the last few times out. This, to me, was a bit of a regression for Jake Irvin.
Yeah, put a lot of guys on base. And the pitch inefficiency, which, we've talked about with other guys, he hasn't necessarily been like a primary culprit in that, but in this game, 98 pitches over 5 innings and 4 walks. We haven't necessarily seen him struggle with the walk that much, but in this game, obviously 4 walks in 5 innings, not good. And the Nats relief pitching in this game, so 3 Nats relievers combining to allow 2 runs, both of which were unearned in 4 innings. Sino Perez, 2 scoreless innings. He tossed a perfect top of the 6th and tossed a scoreless top of the 7th, despite giving up 2 singles and issuing a wild pitch. I mentioned what happened with Andre Granillo. This was rough. 2 runs, both of which were unearned in 1 inning. Top of the 8th, he threw 40 pitches and giving up 3 singles and issuing a walk. Now, also in the inning was a fielding error by second baseman Nasim Nunez. But man, Granillo was out there forever. He gave up a 2-out, bases loaded, opposite field, 2-run single by William Contreras into right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 6-1 Brewers lead. And then Paxton Schultz tossed a scoreless top of the 9th, despite a 2-out fielding error by first baseman Curtis Mead, and despite giving up a 2-out single. I mentioned the total pitch count for the Nats in this game. 4 pitchers over 9 innings, 182 pitches, an average of more than 20 pitches per inning. That's just way too much. In baseball, you will see pitchers throw like 8 pitches in an inning. Like, that does happen. That seems to rarely, if ever, happen with this pitching staff.
It certainly is a bullpen. We haven't seen very much of that. And that's how you end up in a game in which there was a no-hit bid into the 7th inning, how it still wound up as a 3-hour game because of what was happening in the top half of each inning. That Granillo 8th inning, yes, very tough to watch, but it also included an infield single, an error on Nasim Nunez, and then the bunt play. I want to talk about this one. It's 2 on, nobody out, number 9 hitter up, David Hamilton. He bunts it towards third base, and you saw Brady House not know what to do, essentially. He backed up, then he charged, then he backed up again. The ball just kind of laid there, nobody touching it for the, as cheap of a single as you're ever going to get. That's going to be one of those that on Saturday, Blake Butera is going to have a video of that to show to Brady House and the rest of the team. And they're going to discuss, okay, what's the proper way to make that play? Clearly, there was either miscommunication about whether House's responsibility was to charge the ball or to cover third base instead. But that was ugly. That prolonged the inning. It didn't go well from that point on. But it was kind of emblematic of another sloppy game in the field for this team. Yes, nothing much mattered because they weren't going to hit in this game, but they didn't help themselves out in the field on multiple occasions. And that includes Millis with the pass ball in the first inning, as you said. Just an inexcusable one that not only didn't catch the ball, but then didn't even know where it was.
And it really wasn't that bad of a pitch by Irvin. It was low, but it wasn't like in the dirt. It was initially ruled a wild pitch, and you're like, that's not a wild pitch. That's a pass ball. And thankfully, that did get changed. So I do think it's still too early to do a deep dive on the advanced defensive metrics. You really want more of a sample size before you really start doing that. I'll just ask you this. From what you're seeing, how would you evaluate the Nats defense so far?
I think there are probably things about it that are better, but there's still some pretty big red flags out there. More so with individuals, I think, than maybe as a team. But it's a reminder that you can work on this stuff all you want, and the coaching staff is working overtime to try to get better at this. But there are just still things they don't do right, plays they don't make. And sometimes you have to acknowledge that maybe they're just not good defensive players in some cases. We've talked about first base, that it's a problem. Their first basemen are not good defensive first basemen. We know the catchers, it's been an issue. I think Brady House, I know it was a bad play in this game tonight, but overall I've been impressed with him. Nunez had the error, but we know he's an elite second baseman. Abrams has been better, I feel like, especially those routine plays that he would kind of get lazy at last year. That has not happened so far. We're only a month in, so I think he's been better. And I think James Wood has been certainly better in right field. It's just not quite as crisp as you'd like it to be, but we got to remember they were starting from a point of basically the worst, if not close to the worst, in baseball. And so I do think there's been progress in that department, but you can work with them all you want. ultimately, are the players good enough to become good defensive players? And in some of those cases, they just may not be good enough to ever become good defensive players.
Wood had a play in this game where he came in and what was a fairly routine play became dangerous, and he had to lift out his arm. I forget if he had to actually jump or not, but it was a scary looking play because the ball nearly went over his head, but it did not. And when you have very long arms, as James Wood does, those can really come into play in a positive way. And that certainly was the case on that play.
Yeah, only a 6'7" guy makes that catch. If he's 6'5", it's not going to happen. So he was able to recover because you're right. He did take a bad break on the ball.
2 instances of the Nats being no hit in terms of since the franchise came to Washington, D.C. August 9th, 2023, a 7-0 loss at the Philadelphia Phillies. Michael Lorenzen no hit the Nats. And then July 25th, 2024, a 3-0 loss to the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park. Dylan Cease no hit the Nats. Did you think that Jacob Misiorowski was going to do it as you were watching this game?
I didn't, only because the pitch count was high. So I've been complimenting him so much, but if you actually go back and look at it, there were some good quality long at-bats early in the game that drove his pitch count up. C.J. Abrams in the first inning had an 11-pitch at-bat. He fouled off 7 of them. So Misiorowski threw 22 pitches to only 4 batters in the first. He's at 39 after the second, 56 after the third. So maybe there was a shot at a combined no-hitter, but even if he doesn't get hurt, I'm not sure he's going more than 7 at best for them, and knowing they're going to want to protect their young pitcher. So, you always start to get a little worried as the game goes on, and that's at play. But I was confident that it wasn't going to be Misiorowski alone. If they did it, it was going to be a combined no-hitter. And thankfully, I have yet to, knock on wood, actually be present for the Nationals being no-hit in their 21-plus seasons. The one in Philly, I was scheduled to be on that trip. I wound up getting COVID while in Cincinnati, the series before that. I covered the Cincinnati series from my hotel room and then went home, and my former colleague at Mass and Bobby Blanco got to cover the no-hitter in Philadelphia. And the Dylan Cease one was a weekday getaway game right before a road trip that I was on, and I often take those games off. And so Bobby, once again, had the honor of that. But I was sharing this story in the press box tonight with some of the younger writers. I have covered a no-hitter for the opposing team before. It just wasn't the Nationals. When I first started in 2001 covering the Orioles, their very first series was against the Red Sox. And Pedro Martinez started opening day, and the running joke among all of us was like, oh God, the Orioles are going to get no hit on opening day. This is peak Pedro Martinez. Well, they didn't. But then game 2, they did get no hit by Hideo Nomo. And it was literally my first game as a baseball beat writer on deadline, night game, was a no-hitter by the opposing pitcher. And I was very much not prepared for that in the moment. And so ever since, I have felt like I would be better able to handle it. I've covered the Max Scherzer no-hitters, Jordan Zimmerman, and all that. But not since that night in April of 2001 have I covered the team that I'm covering getting no hit. And hopefully that won't ever happen again, right?
I remember that Orioles-Red Sox no-hitter well, and that was a bad Orioles team. That was Cal Ripken Jr.'s final season, so kind of, a sentimental season for sure. But yeah, that team got no hit was not exactly shocking. But to your point, who did the no-hitting was a bit surprising, because that was Nomo past his peak, and yet he was able to no-hit what was a pretty bad Orioles team.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Here's the pitch to Tana, swinging a ground ball to the second baseman Terang. He goes to second for one. The relay by Ortiz to first. That's a double play, and that is the end of this ball game. Tana grounds into the 4-6-3 twin killing, and the Nationals' opportunity to sweep a season series from the Brewers halted here in game 1 of this 3-game set at Nationals Park.
Can the Nats get the ever-elusive win number 4 at home in this regular season? Game number 2 of this series, Saturday afternoon at 4:05. Foster Griffin will be the Nats starting pitcher. You know, we had Strasmus back in the day. I don't know if we need to come up with a name for when Foster Griffin pitches, but he has been the Nats' best pitcher. He has been a pleasure to watch facing the Brewers for a second time, so this will be interesting. I don't know if Griffin's going to tease us with a no-hit bid, but he's been really good, and it'll be, I think, exciting to see him pitch, and hopefully he puts forth another good outing here. Griffmas, right? I mean, it's right there on a platter for you. I was thinking like, Foster Care or Foster Day. I don't know. We got to come up with something for Foster Griffin. But now, to me, the real storyline of this is that he's facing the Brewers for the second time. And he did have a no-hit bid against them. It didn't go as far. I think he reached the 6th inning in that one. But this is the first time now that he has faced a team twice. And it's relatively, short amount of time. What was it, about 3 weeks ago that he did that? So I'm very interested to see both from his standpoint, does he attack them the same way? And from the Brewers standpoint, do they go after him any differently now they have a little intel on him? This is the underlying story to Foster Griffin's entire season. At some point, do other teams start to figure him out? And how does he counteract that? So far, it hasn't really had to come up. This will be the first time for it, and I'm really interested to see how that goes. Well, Griffin will not be averaging 101 miles per hour in terms of his average four-seam fastball velocity. I think it's safe to say that. But he will be giving us, we believe, his array of 7 different types of pitches, which is still just amazing that's how that guy does what he does. But as we've been saying so far, he's done a nice job. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast, and we'll leave you now with an update on the Nats AA affiliate, the Harrisburg Senators, courtesy of the voice of the Senators, Frankie Vernouski.
Deals. The breaking pitch launched out to left center field. Hilson, the center fielder, chasing deep in the gap. He leaps and can't make the catch on the warning track. It rolls out to the 405 marker. Hayes around third. He's coming to score. The throw gets away from the cutoff. Jonathan Thomas around third. He scores. Frankie Vernouski for the Nats Chat Podcast with an update on the Harrisburg Senators, AA affiliate of the Washington Nationals. This Friday night is Game 4 of 6 this week between the Senators and the Akron Rubber Ducks in Akron, the AA affiliate of the Cleveland Guardians. The Senators are 15-8 through the first month of play. The Rubber Ducks are 14-10. Offense has certainly been a huge part of the story for the Senators through the first month of the season. In last night's 4-2 win over the Rubber Ducks, infielder Caden Wallace blasted his team-leading 6th home run out to left field, and Caden has shown good power through the first month of play. Outfielder Jonathan Thomas has also really heated up. A good start to the season overall, but over the last couple of weeks, Thomas is hitting .375 and, in fact, is 9 for his last 18 after putting up his first career 4-hit performance in the win last night. Jonathan Thomas going for 4 for 4 with a double in last night's win. The biggest performance to probably note from this week's series so far at 717 Credit Union Park is left-hander Alex Clemmie, who was fabulous in Tuesday night's ball game to start off the series in what eventually was a Senators win 3-0, the third shutout that the Senators have thrown this season. But Clemmie pitched 6 innings, scoreless baseball, and was perfect through the first 4 2/3, retired the first 14 batters he faced, and did not allow a hit until there were 2 outs in the 5th. And it was certainly the best that we've seen from the young left-hander between his month or so at the end of last season and the month to begin this season. Out determined, really attacking the strike zone and getting ahead of hitters. Breaking ball lifted into the air, out to deep left center field. Dumitru and Hilson going back. It's out of here! Caden Wallace's 4th home run of the season.
The Sens pouring it on. It's 12-3 in the 8th.